So for the day 2, this is our agenda: performing poisoning and relay attacks for initial foothold. MSSQL exploitation will be discussing, and then we'll be understanding and performing Kerberos, what is DCSync attack and how it works, and the usage of threat intelligence in red team, and what is adversary emulation. Now, when we are talking about poisoning, so poisoning is an attack in which what we do, we have LLMNR poisoning. So first thing that you guys need to understand is what is LLMNR. So LLMNR, it stands for link local multicast name resolution. Right. You guys might have heard about DNS. What is DNS? What it stands for and what it does? So it stands for domain name system, and it does name resolution, right? So domain to IP. Why it was created? DNS was created at the time when there were people who were not able to remember the name, like website IPs, right? We are humans, we have a limit of remembering the things, right? So if I give you 4 websites, you can remember their IP addresses. But if I give you hundreds of websites, so you cannot remember their IP addresses. That's why domain name system was created. Now domain name system does what? You give the domain name to your browser and it does the resolution and finds out the IP address and then takes you to that IP address, which will open the web application in front of your screen, right? Now DNS server is also used in Active Directory environments. So when I'm saying that it is used in the Active Directory environments, so what we do, so let's say there is a person in the Active Directory and that person is sending a request to look for a shared file or shared folder, right? So the user says, let's say, I want to find out slash slash ABC, right? But there is a mistake in this, right? Accidentally, the user wrote, I want to find out slash slash ACB. Now that request will go to the DNS server, right? DNS server will say that I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have anything with the name ACB. So I don't know what's its location. Then what happens? The protocol LLMNR comes into the picture, right? What the device does not stop here by like when the DNS server says that I don't know where it is. So the device does not stops there. Device says, let me ask other people. So then it will send a multicast in the whole network, right? What is a multicast? What is multicasting? Multicast means, see, there are few terms. One is broadcast, right? So broadcast means one to all communication. That means if I'm sending data in the broadcast, so it will be sent to all the devices in the network. But when I'm sending data in multicast, multicast means that you are sending data to only few people, not everyone in the network. So this is called one to many communication. Just think of it as a newspaper subscription, right? If you are subscribed to your newspaper vendor, every morning the newspaper vendor will give newspaper to you, right? If your neighbor is not subscribed to that newspaper vendor, your neighbor will not get newspaper. Same like that, there is a multicast group which is there in the server. Now if the device is the part of the multicast group, then the device will be connected or the device will be receiving the data. But if it is not the part of the group, then it will never receive the data. That is the meaning of this multicast group. Now this device which wants to send ACB shared folder, it will send that data to everyone in the network. When he sends, this message that anyone who knows where is ACB. So the attacker with malicious intentions is also sitting in the network. So attacker does what? Attacker basically looks for this request that someone in the network is asking that where is ACB. So what attacker will do? Attacker will reply back. I know where is slash slash ACB, but for your authentication, I want the hash of your password, right? The device says, okay, for the authentication, if you want the hash of my password, I'm sending that hash. So the device will send the hash to the attacker. Attacker will get the hash and will reply back, access denied. Poisoned answer. And then the attacker will have the hash of the user's password. Attacker will try to perform attack on it, try to get the plain text of it, right? That is what LLMNR poisoning is. LLMNR is a protocol which is same like DNS, but it is non-routable. That means it cannot work over the internet like DNS. It can work locally inside the environment. That is poisoning. Next, we have NTLM relay attack. In NTLM relay attack, what we do, there is an attacker is sitting in between the target and the victim. So this is a user who wants to access a resource in the network, right? Now attacker is sitting in between. So user sends a request to find out that I want to connect to you, right? Now when the user sends that request, so what attacker is doing, attacker is relaying. What do you mean by relaying? Man in the middle. That means the victim initiates an NTLM authentication request that I want to authenticate, right, to any service, any file share or web application. Attacker intercept that request and then attacker will send it to the service, right? Then what will happen? This target, like this is a relay target, any resource. So resource will ask for authentication. So it will send back that, okay, do one thing. This is X, right? Encrypt this X with the hash of your password. So the user will encrypt it and send that message to the target. Attacker is sitting in between. Attacker will forward it to the target. Then the target will reply back. It will accept the credentials and the target will think that they are coming from the legitimate user because the credentials are correct. Now the fake answer attacker sends to the victim, access denied, and attacker impersonate as the victim, as this user who's trying to access the resource and get the access of the resource, right, with the privileges of the user, right? So this is NTLM relay attack. Now, why it matters to red teaming? NTLM relay is a stealthy and powerful attack. There is no need to crack the hashes like LLMNR poisoning that we discussed. So in LLMNR, you got a hash, so you'll try to find out the plain text. But here you don't need to find out the plain text, and it can lead to domain escalation, user creation, or data exfiltration. And it can still work in many environments due to the support, the legacy support. So many of the devices, many or most of the devices, they support NTLM. Basically what happens is in the first message you are sending the fake replies. So fake replies are sent over NetBIOS name service or using LLMNR protocol, because there is a tool we have which is called responder that we use. So that responder will use these protocols to send the replies, right? Now, let me show you what we can do with this. So yesterday we did some information gathering, and in the information gathering we got a bit of information as well, right? We got a username and password also. Now what I will do, everyone is able to see my Kali Linux? Perfect. Now I'll try to find out more information because we yesterday we did nm for Linux to find out the information. Now let's move ahead. Now what we have is we have RPC client. So anonymous listing is done with remote procedure call, right? And we can do that with RPC client. So we have RPC client hyphen u user north IP address, and then we are in. We are connected to the target service. What if I write in users? So it gave me the users guest Arya.Stark, Sansa.Stark, Brandon.Stark, Recon.Stark, Hodder, Jon Snow, Samuel.Tarley, whose password we have, Jer.Mormont, and SQL SVC, right? And what if we find out the groups? Sorry, typo. So there is a group domain users, guests, computers, policy creator owners, domain controllers, users, protected users, key admins, DNS update proxy, Stark, Nightwatch, Mormont. So we have the groups as well. Now we'll exit from here. What I will do, I will try to find out all domain users, right? So net RPC group members, domain users, hyphen W north, hyphen IP address, 192.168.56.11, and in the users I have written percentage. That means all users. So you got all the users. This is another way to find out. Administrator, Vagrant, KRBTGT, Seven Kingdoms, and Sansa, Brandon, Recon, like Samuel, Jor, SQL, SVC, like we got in the last one. Right. Now, what I want is whatever users, let's say we have a list of users. So let's do one thing. Let's create a list of users. Nano user list.txt. Robert.Baratheon, Tyrion dot Lannister, Cersei, Caitlyn dot Stark, Jaime dot Lannister. Okay, Jon Snow, Rob Stark, Sansa Stark. Then we have Arya Stark, Bran Stark, Rickon Stark, Joffrey Baratheon. No, it's Bran. It's not Brandon. Brandon is later in the list. Jerome Mormont and Theon Greyjoy, Samuel Tarley, Mormont, Chandra, Lisa Perrin, Braun, Master, Varys. So basically, the users that we have found, these we have found after enumeration, right? I am creating the list from where we are getting all the users from the internet, the HBO series. Basically, this is based on the HBO series, so I'm getting the list from there, right? So there is Bran Stark also, there is Brandon Stark also, right? That's the thing. So let me quickly. I'm just copying the usernames because the list is very long, so I'm importing it. Just a second. So rather than writing it, better is let's copy it. Okay. So this is the list of all the users. Right. Now what I will do here, I will run nmap. The first one, the realm I'm using will be on .10 IP, the 7 kingdoms. User list .txt and the realm is 7 kingdoms.local. Now let's see how many users are there. So the principles that we have found are these for the .10. So how many users we found? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 valid users, right? Then second we'll find out for asos.local, another one, and the IP is .12. Let's change the name. Now here we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 users, right? Now we have to find out the valid usernames by brute force querying like usernames against a Kerberos service. When an invalid username is requested, the server will respond using the Kerberos error code, KRB5KDC error, right? Now let's say we are trying to find out crack map exec SMB hyphen u user is Carl Drogo, password is source hyphen d source.local 192.168.56.12 hyphen users. Source.local Carl Drogo horse enumerated domain users bad password count, bad password count, bad password count. I just entered a random password. Like you might be confused that how we got the password, but I just entered a random password and it allowed me to access. But all the passwords, like all the accounts that we were able to see, we just wanted to see the users. Right. Now I wanted to see the shares, what shares they have. So again, we will use crack map exec and on the SMB 192.168.56.10 10 to 23 I will use username as a password I'll keep empty and hyphen shares. I want to find out, right? So it has given me shares. Can you see this? Baking basic read and write share for all. We found anonymous shares with read and write permissions for Castlebrack and Bravos. So we have the users. Now we have to find out the password for them, right? What I will do, we will create a list of users, only those which were found on north.7kingdoms.local. So nano north users.txt, right? So we found SQL service, SQL SVC, right? There was your dot mormon, Samuel dot Tarley, Jon Snow, Hodor, Recon dot Stark, Brandon dot Stark, Sansa dot Stark, Rob dot Stark, Kathleen dot Stark, Eder dot Stark, Arya dot Stark, KRBTGT account. There was an account for Vagrant also. There was a guest account also, and there was a administrator account. Right? These were the users that we found. So now what we can do, we can perform an attack which is called ASREP roasting. how many of you guys have heard about ASREP roasting? Okay. See, there is an attack which there is a protocol which goes by the name Kerberos. So Kerberos is an authentication and authorization protocol which is used in the Active Directories. So what we do, this ASREP roasting is a Kerberos based attack targeting Active Directory accounts that have Kerberos pre-authentication disabled, right? So it allows the attackers to request encrypted authentication responses from the domain controller without needing the user's password, right? So the domain controller replies with a message encrypted with the user's password, right? And the attacker then performs the brute force or dictionary attack to get the hash, plain text of the hash, right? So very first thing what you have to do, you have to find out vulnerable users, the accounts who have pre-authentication disabled, right? Then you will request the tickets, the data from the domain controller. Domain controller will reply with the encrypted tickets, and then we will use it to get the plain text. Let's see if it works here or not. So there is a script, or you can say a tool with lots of scripts which goes by the name IAMPacket. So I have IAMPacket installed inside my system. It has a script get npusers.py, right? For north dot seven kingdoms dot local hyphen no hyphen pass hyphen users file. What was the name of the file? northusers.txt. What is this? We got a ticket for Brandon Stark and will try to break it as the user does not require Kerberos pre-authentication. Right, so we just did one thing, we haven't saved it. So now I'll copy it, create a new file, is rep hash, paste it, save it. Now we'll use hashcat to crack it, hashcat hyphen m, and the module number for acrep hash is 18,200, right? So you can check it from the help also. So for hashcat, you have to tell every type of hash, that what type of hash you are working with and what type of hash you are cracking, right? Is rep hash, and we'll use user share word list and rock.txt file to get the plain text of the hash. So what you are getting here, the plain text, I see dead people. So we found the password, I see dead people. Now what I will do, here I am writing the password. We have found two passwords till now. Yesterday we did nmap scan. We found one password for samuel.tarle. The password was Heartsbane, right? This time we found for Brandon.Stark, I see dead people, right? So I have written that. Yes. Now let's try one thing. Can we try password spraying? So we created a file north users, right? So what I'm gonna try is an attack, a password spray attack, right? The user's name will be the same, northusers.txt, and password will also be northusers.txt. Hyphen hyphen no hyphen brute force. Forward to write the IP 192.168.56.11. What do you think? Will it work? You have another password for user Hodor. The password is also Hodor, right? So let's write that also. Next thing. Now we will be doing the enumeration with the users with which we have found, right? So we'll try all the users and let's see what we can found. First, we'll use a script get adusers.py, right? And we'll find out the users for this north 7 kingdom.local with the brandon.stark. We are able to get the users. Now, when we have different domains, right? So we can, for one domain, from one domain, you can request the users of other domain, right? Because there is a trust between the domains. For that, we'll use LDAP. So we already have the password for Brendan Stark, the username and password for Brendan Stark. So we'll use that. And we are asking for 7kingdoms.local, the whole 7kingdoms.local. Not only north, the whole. Let's see what it gives. So for 7kingdoms.local, it is working. It says the common name is administrator, guest, vagrant, KRBT, GT, RA.Stark, Caitlin, Sansa, everyone, which we already are aware of. Right. Then we'll make the changes and we will do it for the IP.10. First, let's do it for 12. Dot 12 hyphen D Brendan Stark dot notes local server kingdom IC that people and DC will be, let's remove this, ESSOS, and let's grab everything whatever we can get. So for this, it is not working, right? Or for this domain. Let's see if we are able to get for another the seven kingdoms. Yeah, let's change the name just seven kingdoms dot local and the IP. There is a security provided. Bad password times zero. Where is account type? This. These are all the information that we already know. Object SID. Okay. SOS North. So for the North also you are getting information. Hmm. So this information is not useful for us. Now what to do? Let's try to find out the hashes for this IP, the dot 11, with the user Brandon.Stark, whose password we have, right? Get users spns.py, right? That's the script. Hyphen request we will be using and hyphen dc hyphen IP. The IP will write 192.168.56.11 and north.7 kingdoms dot local slash Brandon dot Stark and the password I see dead people, sorry, hyphen output file. Okay, let's name the output file as Kerberoasting dot hashes. Oh, DC appear output. Okay, sorry, there was a space. No. Oh, typing error. Okay, now if I open the file Kerberoasting.hashes. So hashes for Sansa.Stark, Jon Snow, and SQL service have been stored. Right? Now what I will do, I will try to get the plain text of these hashes. So hashcat hyphen m and the file name is Kerberoasting. Now wait for it to perform the attack and give you the plain text. It gave me I know nothing for which user? Jon Snow. And we have another user, Jon Snow, and the password is I know nothing. So let's write it John.Snow and I know nothing. Let's see if it gave anything else. No. For others, no luck. Right. Now we got a domain user, so we can do further enumeration and we can enumerate the share another time with a user account. Right. So crack map exec SMB 192.168.56.10 till 23 and the username is john.snow. Password is I know nothing. Right? Domain name north.7kingdoms.local and hyphen shares. Now this folder is readable. So this is how you get the information, find out that how you can perform the attack. Now you have all the many users, right? Can we take advantage of any other user or shall we try to find out more information? Let's try to find out more information, right? So this machine is not in the same network. Now this is a vulnerable Active Directory environment. In this vulnerable Active Directory environment, there is a bot working. That bot every time it keeps on contacting like LLMNR poisoning that we have discussed. So that bot keeps on contacting device, right? It tries to look for information, right? So there is a tool which goes by the name responder, right? Now I'm running responder. Responder is a tool which looks for the information. Like we have discussed that there is a person, right? The attacker, right? Attacker is looking for all the requests that if someone is requesting anything in the network, right? So attacker uses the tool responder to look for that. When I press enter, you will see in few minutes, you will get to know the hash, right? So let's wait for it to come up. Okay, one hash we found for Eddard.Stark. Waiting for other. That's it takes 3 to 5 minutes because that's how the bots are designed that the bots will be sending reply back in one will be sending in 3 minutes, other will be sending in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, let me copy this hash and put it in a file. So what to name it? Um, LLMNR hash.txt. This is for ed.stark. We are waiting for rob.stark to give us the hash so that we can try to find something else. So it may take time sometimes, right? Because you have, if you are in a real Active Directory environment and you are sitting in the environment, so you have to wait for the any user to make a request. So when the user will make the request, then you will have to send the reply. So you'll keep on waiting. So this time we are waiting for rob.start to make a request in the network to find something. When that user will make a request, then we'll try to do something. So it is looking for bravos.local. Once it does a small spelling mistake, you will get the hash, because then your responder will reply back with a. Meanwhile, it is capturing. Let's try to crack the password for this. So the tool that you will be using will be hashcat-m 5600 force 0 and LLMNR hash.txt slash user slash share word list and the rocket.txt file. Okay, rocket.txt is not unzip. gzip hyphen user share hashcat-m 5600 force a0 LLMNR hash.txt user share wordless rocket.txt. If there is any hash for Rob, till now no hashes. Let's start this again. Maybe this time we'll get the hash for Rob. So these are the vulnerable labs. So sometimes some bots may stop working. So that's why you need to start looking for the connections again. And the password is getting cracked. So let's see if it will be cracked. The plain text. Exhausted. So it was not able. The password for this user Edard was very strong. So we were not able to find out the plain text. This time maybe it's looking for rob.stock from the starting. So we'll get the rob.start. Now, while it is looking for information and the password, let me tell you about MS SQL Server as well. Right, that if MS SQL service is running in your network, right? So what we can do with it? Yeah, it's pretty much advanced topic, so that's why. So what we can do, we can find out information, right? If it is vulnerable, the MS SQL service is vulnerable because MS SQL is running in the target machine, right? So what we can do? Get users SPN. SPN means service principal name, right? For north dot seven kingdoms dot local, and the user which we found, Brandon dot Stark. Its password was I see dead people. IRA DC dot local never. And what if we try it on SOS dot local? Hyphen target hyphen domain. So if you have a username and password, you basically try to look for the vulnerabilities or look for the privileges if one user of one domain can find out the information from other domain. Right, MSSQL service bravos.local, you are getting. So this is giving me this information that there is MSSQL service running on port number 1433. What about the above one? Here also port number 1433. Right, so the service is running on port number 1433. What if I scan the port number 1433 just by using nmap? Right, so I want the service version and want to run the default scripts for nmap, and 192.168.56.10 till 56.23. Let's say who will answer. Bravos sos.local, and the above one is castleblack.north.seven kingdoms.local. Right, so these two have MSSQL service running. So SQL, sorry, client.py hyphen windows hyphen auth north.seven kingdoms dot local slash Samuel dot Tarley, and his password was Artsbane at Castle Black. So remember where we saw the Castle Black when we were looking for the shares. Now here this information is being used. Castle Black dot north dot seven kingdoms dot local. Okay. MSSQL connect socket type get address info. Let me try with IAM packet. There is a script MSSQL client. Let's see if it is compatible. North dot seven kingdoms dot local slash Samuel dot Tolley Hotsbane at Castleback dot north dot seven kingdoms dot local. Okay, so there are shows it takes one argument, but maybe the MSSQL service is not responding back in the target, right? But what we can do, if the MSSQL service would be replying back here. So for the MSSQL service, it might be giving you or connecting you to the MSSQL server, but there is security implemented. So that's why it is not giving you any information or any output, right? Otherwise, you could have connected to the MSSQL service and it would have given you the output that these are the services or these are the usernames. You can find out the logins, you can run the SQL commands basically. And Rob is not giving the answer, so we still have only 4 hashes left, right? So we have till now what we have done, we have found by different, we have done ASREP roasting attack, we have find out the different passwords from different types of enumeration and attack, right? We have done Kerberoasting, we have tried Kerberoasting, we have tried ASREP roasting, right? We got the hash from the LLMNR poisoning, right? Then after that, what you do, you basically move towards the type of attacks like DCSync attacks, right? So there are multiple tools and multiple attacks that you can do, right? Now let's go back to our presentation. So as I said that we can do DCSync attack. DCSync attack means now let's say I have a username and password, right? So we got the username and password for let's say Brandon, right? So once you get the username and password for Brandon, then what we can do, take the access of Brandon system, right? If let's assume that Brandon is an admin of the domain, you can take the access, or if Brandon is a normal user of the domain, or even then you can take the access. Now DCSync is what it is, a post exploitation technique where an attacker mimics a domain controller and request replication of password hashes from another domain controller, right? So there was a source.local, it will be having a domain controller, and seven kingdoms.local, right? So these are different domains and they have domain controllers. So I am impersonating as the domain controller of seven kingdoms.local, right? I will request source.local being an attacker, right? I'm impersonating as domain controller. I will request the replication of password hashes from source.local. What happens is there is a protocol or feature which goes by the name MSDRSR, Directory Replication Service Remote Protocol, which is used by the domain controllers to sync data. So instead of dumping the hashes in the memory, DCSync asks the domain controller to hand over the credentials directly, right? For that, you will need an account in this domain which will be having replication permissions, right? Then I will be sending the replication request to another domain controller. It will respond with sensitive data and then cracks them offline, right? So that is DC sync attack. It just depends that if you have, or if the account that you have will be having those privileges or not. Okay. Now, next thing that we have is threat intelligence. Now, when we talk about threat intelligence is the process of collecting, analyzing, and applying information about current and emerging cyber threats, right? So it transforms raw data into actionable insights about adversaries, their tactics, and vulnerabilities they exploit. So threat intelligence isn't just about knowing that what malware is out there. It's about understanding who's behind it, how they operate, and what they are targeting, right? Now, when we are talking about threat intelligence, so we have the phases. Like here it is written. So we have planning phase, right? In the planning phase, you have to define the goals. What threats matter to your organization? What assets are critical, right? Then collection phase is there. So in collection, you gather data from threat feeds, dark web, honeypots, logs, internal telemetry, open source intelligence from wherever you can get the information, and then you will do the processing. Right, processing means normalize, filter, and correlate raw data into structured format. Then will happen your analysis. Analysis will identify the tactics, techniques, and procedures, the attackers, and the indicators of compromise, like the signatures or patterns of the attack. Once that is done, then dissemination. Right? Share insights with SOC, incident response teams, and red and blue teams. And then there will be feedback. So in feedback, you can refine the intelligence requirements based on the outcomes and gaps, right? Now we have different types of threat intelligence, like we have strategic threat intelligence. It is high level trends, geopolitical risk, APT motivations, right? Operational are there, right? Operational campaigns, threat actor profiles, the malware families will be given in operational. If you are doing tactical threat intelligence, so you'll find out tactics, techniques, and procedures, indicators of compromise, and you will map it to the MITRE attack framework. The MITRE attack framework that we discussed yesterday, right? Then technical threat intelligence. Technical means it will give you the hashes, the IPs, the domains, the exploit code, the rules to detect it, so that you can do the better analysis, right? Now, why threat intelligence is important for red teams? So, threat intelligence does what? It supercharges your red teaming by making it realistic, targeted, and adversary informed. Right? First thing, you will do dark web recon. Right? So, you can discover the leaked credentials, steal your logs, expose infrastructure for initial access. Right? Phishing campaigns. Craft the payloads based on actual attacker which lures, and delivery methods which actual attacker uses. So how you can get that information from threat intelligence. Credential stuffing, like we discussed this credential stuffing yesterday as well. Validate stolen credentials against corporate system before attackers do, right? And then you can also do attack surface discovery, right? Attack surface means all the points where an attacker can attack, right? Now it can be physical vector, it can be vulnerability exploited by the attacker, it can be social engineering which attacker has used. So all the points which attacker have done, right, or attacker can do, you have to do all those things where attacker can perform the attack, right? So there was a group, Lockbit, right? They were having a ransomware, Lockbit ransomware. They attacked Accenture in 2021, and they logged around 6 terabytes of data, and it was they were asking around $50 million of ransom, right? So what they did, they used threat intelligence to gather their known initial access methods, like remote desktop protocol, brute forcing, phishing. Then they emulated lateral movement using their command and control infrastructure. And then they tested the response detection and response capabilities of the blue team. They were not able to detect, and that's why. Right, so that is threat intelligence and how it's used in red teaming. Next thing that we have is adversary emulation. Right, the image that you are seeing, it's quite fancy, and this is the tool that you use in red team for adversary emulation, goes by the name Caldera. So adversary emulation is a red team methodology that replicates the real world tactics, techniques, and procedures of known threats. The APT groups, which we saw in MITRE attack framework yesterday, to test the organization's defenses, right? So it's threat informed, goal driven, and scenario based. And it uses frameworks like MITRE attack to guide the simulation. So it's not just about exploiting vulnerabilities, it's about acting like the attacker across the full kill chain, right? How it works: first, threat intelligence gathering happens, right? Identify a real world attacker like APT-59 group. Collect the tactics, techniques, and procedures from the threat reports, malware sandboxes, and MITRE attack mappings. Understand their initial access methods, the lateral movement patterns. Then happens your adversary emulation plan. Build a structured plan using MITRE attack or unified kill chain. Define objectives like data exfiltration we have to do, or we have to do the domain takeover or ransomware deployment, anything. Include the timelines, infrastructure setup, and operational security considerations. Then you will set up the infrastructure, right? Infra setup will deploy the redirectors, the command and control servers, then harden the infrastructure to evade the detection. Then happens the execution, right? So you will simulate the initial access like phishing, credential stuffing, or exploiting the misconfiguration. Perform the post exploitation like enumeration, privilege escalation, lateral movement. Maintain the persistence and simulate the impact, right? Then you will check detection and response evaluation, right? So observe how blue team reacts, identify the gaps in visibility, alerting, and containment, provide a feedback for improving detection in engineering and incident response playbooks, and then reporting and debrief, right? So deliver a detailed report with attack, MITRE attack mapping, timeline, and recommendation. Include the missed detection, delayed responses, and remediation strategies. Right now, why it is powerful for red teams? Because it has realism. It emulates actual adversaries, not just random exploits. The threat informed, it uses correct current threat intelligence to guide the operations. Full kill chain coverage, it tests defenses from initial access to impact. Blue team collaboration, it drives purple teaming and detection improvement, and it also does continuous validation. It can be automated for ongoing security testing, right? So the tool that you are seeing, it is called MITRE Caldera, right? Apart from that, there are other tools also which are used. So from Atomic, there is Atomic Red Team. There is Uber Meta, right? So these are the tools that are used, right? That is your adversary emulation. So these were some bits and bumps of the red team.